Is narcissism a choice? I know when you're on the receiving end of narcissistic behavior, it very frequently does feel like it's intentional. We kind of think, wow, this person is out to get me, they're out to destroy me, they're constantly coming at me, they're attacking me, they're creating chaos in my life, and it just feels like they are hell bent on destroying me. And it does feel like a choice. When you look at that from like the moral perspective, a lot of us go, how can you treat another human being this way? Or what I hear from a lot of parents is, how can you treat your child this way? How can you claim you love your child, but then you're doing all these kind of destructive patterns? Or you claim you love your child, and not only are you maybe destroying the child, but you're also destroying the other parent, the mother or father. And so it just doesn't make sense in our logical brain a lot of times. And it does feel like we are being attacked. But the question still is it intentional? Because intent has a lot to do with the level of cruelty and all that kind of thing that is put on something. If I intend to hurt you, if I intend to cause you bodily harm, if I intend to lie to you, if I'm, intending to be manipulative and all those things, that has a totally different context than if you say, you did this thing and I say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. I didn't realize that was upsetting. I didn't realize, right? It's a totally different context. Before we dive into this, let me just remind you, if you like the content and find it helpful, don't forget to hit like on this video. Also, subscribe to the channel so that you get notified as new videos are released. And as always, please feel free to share on social media. The more you guys share, the more people we can reach, the more people that I can potentially help. Okay, so it's helps me help other people when you share it. I will start out by saying I am obviously not a therapist. I don't have any of that kind of credential. So everything that I am talking about is based on my own experience for myself personally, my own experience of working with coaching clients who are dealing with a narcissistic co-parent on the other side. And of course, reading and educating myself and attending every workshop that I could get myself into for many, many years now. So when we're dealing with this and it feels very destructive and very intentional, what we really do have to keep in mind is that narcissism isn't a choice at the end of the day. It is something that this person developed as a result of their own childhood traumas, right? It's their coping mechanism. I always say, if you have more than one child, I'm sure you've had this experience where you can do the exact same thing in the way you raise one child that you do when you're raising the other child, and they will have totally different reactions to it. They will both come out of it with totally different perspectives. It's like I watched this video one time of somebody talking about they had interviewed two children of an alcoholic father, a very severely alcoholic father, and they interviewed two boys once they were an adult. And one boy went down the path of becoming an alcoholic and the other boy did not. And they asked the alcoholic child, okay, what was it that sent you down this path of alcoholism? And he said, well, my father was an alcoholic. What else would I have learned except for how to be an alcoholic? And then they asked the other guy, well, you didn't go down this path. Why? What kept you from doing that? And he's like, well, I watched my father destroy himself with the alcohol. So how could I have possibly gone down that path and become an alcoholic? So again, two children, same circumstances, pretty severe, and they both go down totally different paths. So a lot of this has to do with our own personal characteristics of our personality, each of our parents' characteristics of their personalities, which parent we identify with, all these different psychological aspects of this that go into when somebody becomes a narcissist. And it really is a coping mechanism that they learn. It's just like for us, and when I say us, I'm assuming if you're watching this, you probably lean more into the codependent type. Most people I work with do. We have more of a people-pleasing style. We tend to be the one that carries all the responsibility, carries all the burden, and those tend to be the coping mechanisms that we've learned to use in moving through life as a result of our childhood trauma. So if you can start to reframe it in that way where you understand that this person came to this as a result of their childhood experiences, okay? The thing that does is it reminds you that it's not about you. And I think so many times we kind of internalize that. And if you are codependent or you are a people pleaser, we tend to overthink, right? How many things do you ruminate about in your brain and analyze and try to figure out, and what did this mean and what did that mean, and why are they doing this? And or my favorite is we're always trying to figure out, well, I know they're getting ready to do something, right? I know the other shoe's about to drop, and we're like waiting for that and we're watching for it. Well, why do you have that? Because that is how you learned to cope with these different situations. Now, that particular behavior is usually more destructive to yourself than to other people, right? And a lot of the narcissist behaviors tend to be destructive actually to them and to other people. So it's sort of like just taking down everybody, right? Instead of just themselves. And I think for codependent people pleaser, we tend to kind of take down ourselves more than the other person. But nonetheless, this comes from that various childhood trauma and how the person learned to cope. So it's not a choice. And that's why when people ask me things like, when will this stop? When will they quit doing this? And the answer to that is they won't. They won't. This has been a coping mechanism that they have learned and done their whole life. And they're not suddenly just going to stop because it's you or because it's their kid or whatever. And if you read about narcissism, in particular, people who are actually diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, almost like they don't get cured. Like cured is not a thing, right? They can learn to manage it better, but the percentage of them that choose to do that is so small that I think it's like, maybe 1% or something. It's very, very minuscule, the amount of people that actually try to get help with this issue and learn how to cope with things differently. They are really just trying to get through life and cope in the same ways that you are, because we could argue that our ways aren't as bad, right? Or are better or whatever. And our ways may not be as destructive to other people. But I would say that we're destroying ourselves more probably than a narcissist is. But it's the same root. When we come into people pleasing, all right, we're thinking, well, okay, what if this person doesn't like me? Or these are kind of your subconscious processes that are going on, right? You don't always think these things overtly, but it's like, I want people to like me. I need that validation. I need that attention. I need that, whatever it is for you that creates that, to where you need that kind of positive feedback from other people in order to feel good about yourself, so that, because otherwise you can't feel good about yourself just in and of yourself. Right? With how a normal healed person would feel worthy and valued and all of those things. We're trying to get the value from external validation. It's the same thing for a narcissist. They are trying to shore up their own insecurities and their own feelings of inadequacy. But instead of trying to almost like coax it out of other people the way we would, what they tend to do is they try to put on this mask and pretend that that insecurity or that fear or that need for other people to like them doesn't exist. So it's almost like a denial of it as opposed to a leaning in of it. And the reason that I think this is important for you to understand, I know that this doesn't really like solve your problem in a lot of ways, right? And I talk plenty enough about how to solve the problem on the channel. But I just want you to understand this so that you can, one, stop beating yourself up, because so many clients that I have are like, what did I do? Why are they doing this? Why are they bent on destroying me? And it's like, it's not you, or, hey, I got 10 messages from them in the parenting app today. What is wrong? Why are they suddenly turning on me? They're not. It's their own something happened in their own world that's creating that feeling of emotional inadequacy. And so that's the outlet that they're choosing. They're choosing you as the outlet. And you know what? That's not a surprise, because we did become the outlet through the process of the relationship. And human beings tend to turn towards what's familiar. So if you've been that outlet, you are going to continue to be that outlet, at least for a while, until they find another outlet. Or there may be times that their other outlet isn't possible, so they turn back to you, right? And that happens. Like, I see narcissists that have new mates, and then they'll be in some argument with the new mate, and then the co-parent will get this litany of attacks through the parenting app, right? So it's not really about you. And the thing I want you to understand about that is, this is why your boundaries become so important, because you're dealing with somebody on the other side who isn't dealing with you in a logical, rational way. They're dealing with you based on their own emotions. And so if you don't create that boundary between your world and theirs, you are constantly subject to that emotional turmoil that is part of their life. And that's the part that I want you to be able to avoid. I hope this perspective is helpful. If you'd like to learn more about my coaching services, you'd like to take a deeper dive into these types of issues and how you can kind of create that boundary and move yourself out of the chaos of this, you can go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There's information on that page on my group coaching programs for moms and for dads, because we both experience narcissistic co-parents. And there's also information about my premium VIP one-on-one coaching services. If you have a more complex case, or you're right at the beginning, or you've got custody evals, attorney for the children, all those different kinds of components going on, then those premium services are probably going to meet your needs better than the group component alone. Okay. So thanks for joining me. I will see you guys next time.
We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands.